Welcome back, guys, to Lunatic Astrology. I'm your astrologer, Lori Lothian. I'm going to cover 3 secrets to making Mercury retrograde a success story in your life. And I'm going to talk about all signs in terms of how this 3-week Mercury retrograde that started up on October the 13th, 14th until November 3rd. It's going to impact you based on your rising sign, your sun sign, and or your moon sign. So before we do that, let's talk about the big broad brushstrokes of what Mercury retrograde is about and how you can look at it maybe in a different way than, oh no, my travel plans fell apart, or my computer broke, or there was a misunderstanding in our communication. Those are just classic, right? Disruption of Mercury's wheelhouse. Mercury rules everything from the mail you get from the post office, being disrupted in the build-up to a US election, yikes, to emails, phone calls, technology, travel plans, etc. Now, there are some highlights here about Mercury retrograde, or secrets of Mercury retrograde, that most people don't talk about. And I really want to share them with you so that you can get a better perspective on the upside of Mercury retrograde, how to make it work for you, and for particular signs, especially how it is meant to work for you. So let's get going. So first of all, in this idea of Mercury retrograde not being all so bad, right? Like it's not just always a hair-pulling episode of reality. One of the things I want to say is that if you're born with your ascendant in Gemini, or your ascendant in Virgo, or your sun or moon in those signs, those are Mars's home signs, right? He owns the real estate of those constellations. And when he goes retrograde for you, Virgo and Gemini, sun, moon, and ascendants, you tend to have actually something quite special happen. Serendipity, synchronicity, some lucky breaks. Sometimes you go deeply inward and come up with new ideas, new insights. It's almost like for you, when Mercury goes retrograde, you're kind of getting sweet nothings from the messenger of the gods, giving you kind of a leg up circumstantially. So I know a lot of people who are ruled by Mercury by ascendant and also sun or moon. They have a lot of mercurial energy going on, and particularly the luminaries, sun and moon, and or the ascendant. And they always have something exciting happening in the Mercury retrograde. They're like, oh, I gotta tell you this great story. You won't believe what just happened. Woo! So for some of you, it's just in general in life, not always a terrible thing. And even if a trip gets canceled, or a device collapses and your hard drive crashes in a Mercury retrograde, somehow for you, there's always some really good lemonade coming out of those lemons, like more so than the average Joe. Rather than looking at like pure calamity, it's almost like intelligent chaos or intelligent disruption. And maybe it's also that the Gemini ascendant and the Gemini Virgo ascendants, Gemini ascendants, sun and moon people have a disposition that's mercurial and will look for the deeper meaning of what's happening. Because Mercury to me is a magician, and he also rules synchronicity and magic. And so those temperaments of those signs may just look at the disruptive Mercury retrograde differently. But I also think, honestly, Mercury operates a little bit more benevolently in their stories. All right, so obviously conversely, where Mercury is really ill at ease are in the signs of the opposite signs of Sagittarius and Pisces. Those are his discomfort zones. That's his debility. So when he's in those kingdoms, like when he transits through those signs, he's not feeling well. He got a upset stomach, or he got a headache, or he's just not up to his own normal feisty, trickster, mischievous messenger of the god self. So I would say generally, some of you guys who are Sagittarius risings or Pisces risings, or your sun and moon are in those signs, you may actually find that these challenges of Mercury retrograde are significant, but they all still have a divine orchestration to them. There's always a reason. I'm going to go into that next about what Mercury does when he goes retrograde. But for some of you, please pay attention. If you are mercurial in terms of sun, moon, and ascendant, you can look forward to the next 3 weeks. It should be not so bad, all right? Just the other day, oh my God, the day Mercury stationed to go retrograde. Well, yesterday, was that yesterday? Anyway, I was on with a client. Somebody had put her birth data into my field for her as a gift, and she's from Texas. So I assumed that when I looked at 6/10, I was looking at June 10th, but it was October 6th because a Canadian had bought the session for her, and I didn't realize that. And we just had to stop. I'm 10 minutes in, and she looks at the chart more carefully and says, that's not my birthday. And it was weird because I was like, this isn't feeling like it's flowing. Usually I'll say something about the client's chart straight up, and they're like, oh my God, yeah, that's so true. That's so true. And they were like, kind of like, oh, well, I guess. Total Mercury retrograde. Had to reboot that. Had an interview for a woman's show. I was going to be on a podcast interview or whatever. The internet just kept cutting out. We had to stop and reboot. So that's exactly what Mercury retrograde feels like for me, because no, I am not a Gemini or a Virgo, sun, moon, or ascendant. So yeah, blah. All right, so let's get going again. So if we talked about, for some, secret number one, for some of you, Gemini, Virgo types, sun, moon, and ascendant is always a better ride than for most of us. Alrighty. Number two, you always have to look at the 3 passes of Mercury. This is the secret to Mercury success stories in Mercury retrograde. If you look at the rhythm of the retrograde, there is going to be 3 times that Mercury returns to the spot at which the retrograde is occurring. So let me give you an example. Alrighty, so this Mercury retrograde is happening on October 13th, 14th, and it's stationing, or Mercury stops to go retrograde at 11 degrees and 40 minutes. But before he gets to that point to do that, on October 10th, pass number 1, he is entering into the 11th degree. So you can really say that the initiation point of the retrograde cycle is October 10th. The crucible of the turnaround of the planet to go backwards, October 13th, 14th. And then, lo and behold, Mercury will come back after his long transit retrograde, where he goes all the way back this time into the 25th degree of Libra. But when he comes back and finally returns to the same degree where the whole shebang started, the 11th degree of Scorpio, will be on November the, did I write down the return date? Let me check, because I should have. Yeah, November the 17th. No, sorry, let me rephrase that. It will come back on November the 19th. All right, sorry. So, because I want to talk about Uranus, and I've got a lot of notes in front of me. So yeah, so on November the 19th, there's something that's going to happen that ties in with the discombobulation you felt when Mercury was going retrograde. And so in essence, sometime between the turnaround point, right, as Mercury stops in the sky to return to direct motion on the day after the US election, you know, he stations on the 2nd, he starts moving forward again on the 3rd of November, he is going to be coming back and hitting again the original point at which he retrograded. And that November 19th needs to be understood by you as a beginning, middle, end story. October 10th, October 13, 14 kind of crucible, and then November the 19th. So it's a secret, because if you just think that the calamity was the thing, you're missing the grand finale. What happens that sort of concludes the whole story? Now, one of the things about any planet retrograde is that it's going back to readdress something from the past, or readdress something that's already started. You know, in a case of this Mercury retrograde, really we're saying something that started up around October 10th, you know, is the whole story of the retrograde when it first crossed over in direct motion at that degree. If you have a planet, guys, anybody listening, take this in angular to this particular retrograde, it's going to be more significant for you. Any planet between roughly 8 degrees and 14 degrees of the fixed signs. Fixed signs are Taurus and Scorpio, alrighty, Leo and Aquarius. I'm getting hit. I've got my Saturn at 9 degrees Aquarius. I've got my Neptune at 12 degrees of Scorpio. So yeah, this is a big one for me. So I really want you to consider, and I know what it means already because I'm going back over some project that I had done before and I'm redoing it. So I really want you to think a lot about those degrees in your chart. If you don't know your natal chart, go to astro.com, put your birth date in. You need, ideally, you know your birth time or close to it. Throw up the chart and then look for planets at the degrees I said, 8 to 14 degrees, Taurus, Scorpio, Leo, and Aquarius. And you'll get a sense of where this is going to sort of rustle up some story for you as Mercury triggers the angles of the chart and any planets on those angles. So number 2 of my 3 secrets then was to look at the 3 past story. Don't just take Mercury retrograde as a solo event. It's not. It's a middle of a beginning, middle, and end story. Something starts, something is, you go back and you look at it. Someone from the past comes forward. I learned Hellenistic astrology from Atrutavava, who used to be called Adam Ellenbos. His school is Nightlight Astrology. And he recently spoke on Mercury retrograde on his channel, great channel, about the idea that it's almost like a cross-examination. He was using that based on research by a Hellenistic astrologer named Robert Schmidt, that when a planet goes retrograde, it's almost like it can cross-examine, you know what I mean? Like in a court of law, something's happening and then there's a cross-examination and then there's some forward momentum. And I kind of like that idea. I've never thought of that before. And I really appreciate that perspective. To me, it's always been any retrograde, I'm very attendant to them, to really try to figure out what's really going on. And my experience for myself and my clients is it's not just the simple something from the past comes to the present, or someone from the past shows up. I mean, those are like cliches of the retrogrades. It's something deeper than that by far. You know, a planet going retrograde is moving against the motion of the planet, the normal motion of the planet, the regular status quo motion of the planet by virtue of our perspective on Earth. And that also tells me it's breaking the rules, right? So also cross-examining kind of is like, are you sure you want this? Or, you know, and I think Adam/Achuta said something like, he said something like, you know, maybe you would get something from a retrograde planet, that something is taken away during the retrograde that was given to you by that planet, or something is given to you by that planet going retrograde that was taken away. I also love that feeling. So I really want you to think about this retrograde in terms of something being given or taken away during the retrograde by the very planet that gave it to you or took it away in the beginning, almost like it's changing its mind on a story. Okay. So lots of thoughts about what Mercury retrograde's really, truly, perhaps about. Okay, hang in there. I will get to the all signs and I will timestamp it. You can jump ahead, but please keep hanging in there because it's number three. Woo! Okay, and that's a Scorpio stock photo behind me. I gotta love that the Scorpio sting is there. Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt about it. Mercury retrograding in Scorpio could be some really stingy stuff, you know, ouch, somebody's biting you, some kind of, you know, bad communication, trolling, negative communication, that kind of thing, feeling stung. But that's just, you know, not for everybody, but for some of us, we may feel that depending on where the retrograde happens in your chart, which you'll learn all signs. The last thing, secret number 3, don't tell anyone. Shh. Cazimi. Cazimi is so important. Every couple of months, Mercury goes into the heart of the sun. He crosses over the sun and it looks like, you know, you can't see him. Like you go, you know, you can't see Mercury because he's right there in front of the sun or behind the sun. And when he retrogrades across the face of the sun, goes backwards to do that, it's very interestingly a different kind of retrograde than direct motion. And so for everybody, it's a good time to go into a reverie, a meditation, pay attention to your dreams, meditate. Why? Well, one of the Mercury retrogrades, Cazimi, the sun, I didn't even recognize it was the day I got a download to write a book called The Coming Age of Miracles. It began that day with a dream at night that I was lifted out of the sunroof of my car and went to heaven to see God. I know it's crazy. And then I woke up and I heard this voice, the voice of God, and I wrote a book. I started it that day of the actual Cazimi of Mercury. And so I really want you to start thinking that these Mercury Cazimi windows are important, that you can harness them. It's not all about being a victim of Mercury retrograde. Mercury, the messenger of the gods, in the heart of the sun, is like powwowing with God, powwowing with the divine, getting his messages. And so you can also get the messages too. So October the 25th is the Cazimi that's coming up, alrighty? And just so you know how frequent these Cazimis are, but this is the retrograde Cazimi. Oh, I love it. I'm such a paper girl. There's one on December 19th. Obviously direct motion. There's one on February 8th. That's a retrograde. There's one on April 18th, June 10th, on and on. So yeah, in general, grab Cazimis, but the retrograde Cazimi can be mystical, magical, profound. It can bring a sense of connection to the divine within you, within the world. If you don't have a belief structure, that's okay. It can even, it's a time to just tune into your own soul, tune into God, how you define her, and really get the goods on the Cazimi. October 25th. All right. So those are your tips, how to make the secrets to make your Mercury retrograde successful instead of just a pain in the ass. All right. So we're going to go to the all signs. But before I do, I want to remind everybody that we also have a complication. Mercury is going retrograde. And at the same time, he is opposing Uranus. That's just not easy thing. Uranus is disruptive, catalyzes, electrifies, great awakener, causes unpredictable and sudden change. Uranus is like a, S disturber, doesn't like the status quo. An astrologer I know wrote one time that it's like Uranus is like, wants to bust the sacred cows, and any sacred cow or super status quo cherished belief or thing you think is never going to change, or it's a sacred cow of some kind. It's like, to Uranus, it's like you put a red blanket up and he's a bull. It's just going to tear right at it. I like that idea. So get ready for that disruptive energy that pervades this retrograde period. And why does it pervade? Well, because the beginning of the Uranus opposition was on, well, I have a Uranus opposition chart here somewhere. Did I write it down? Oh, I'm such a paper girl. Maybe I didn't. Yes, I did. Okay. Alrighty. So on October the 7th, going direct, okay, Mercury was in opposition to Uranus. Then on October 19th, Mercury is retrograding back and will again oppose Uranus. And then on November 17th, Mercury will go forward and then, oppose Uranus. Now, in each of our lives, depending on our sign, it's going to mean something personally different and I will try to talk about that in the all signs section. But, in the collective sphere, for instance, the post office is mercurial, and the United States is having all the big deal about the mail-in ballots and the election. And I truly expect this to be a calamity, really, because Uranus, yes, on October 19th, there's a retrograde return backwards. So maybe there'll be some news about the post office saying we can't handle the volume, or some stupid legislation or in certain states that is prohibitive for ballot boxes or something like that. And then on November the 17th, after the election, and then there's a forward opposition from Uranus. I don't know, a sudden surprise, like there's a bunch of uncounted ballots that somebody rules needs to be counted, even though it's that long after the election. I don't even know, because they were stuck in the mail. And it's not about the post office. It's just about unexpected, dramatic, shock and awe news continually hitting us. So pay attention to the 19th, pay attention to the 17th as well. All right, and we know that Donald Trump was sick with COVID around the 2nd, 3rd, and it was announced, to the world. So that could have even been the October 7th Uranus-Mercury opposition, because it was in the orb of that, coming to pass. It was close enough. Alrighty, let's go ahead, talk about all signs. And please like, subscribe, share my videos, hit the bell for notifications. I have a newsletter where I offer discounts on all my readings to my clients, early bird specials. Please check that out. I give a weekly Sunday newsletter about the transits ahead. I go into some material that's certainly not here. And I also have a Patreon new account. You can check that out below, where you get monthly one-on-one things with me, depending what level you're at, discounts on my readings, etc. So check me out off of this platform if you want. I'm not just here. You'll find all the information in the description box below. Alrighty, so let's get going and talk about this. Yeah, guys, someone asked me why my channel's not growing. Well, first of all, I'm not that regular. I'm trying to get better at it, but I changed the channel name a year ago, a bit more, from my name to Lunatic Astrology, and it crashed the algorithm on me. And although I had been building momentum under my own name, which I should have stuck with. So learn, live and learn, live and learn. I'm just working my way back. All right, and I'm almost at 2,000 subscribers. I'm 6 people away. So please subscribe if you haven't. I would love to celebrate the 2,000 mark. Alrighty, so all signs, let's start out. So for you Aries folk, sun, moon, and ascendant. Now, technically everyone, your ascendant is going to be the most accurate. And people always ask me, how does it work, the sun and the moon? Well, if you're born at night, okay, then you're going to have more likelihood, that the moon will have more influence. And if you're born in the daylight, then the sun. How do you know? Get your astrology chart out, astro.com. Does the sun fall below or above the horizon line? Then you know, below is night, above is day. Also, just a quick reflection. The reason astrology works by sign, like check your sun sign out, is we're assuming that we take the sun sign and we make it the lugna lord. We make it, that's a Vedic term, we make it the beginning of the chart. So I'm an Aries sun, and so modern astrology on YouTube, people say, here's your sun sign reading. It's as if Aries becomes the first house. So it's as if it's my ascendant sign. So it's not quite as accurate as looking truly at your rising sign, your ascendant sign, which is simply where the Eastern horizon was lined up in terms of the 12 constellations at the time of your birth in the tropical zodiac. Tropical is symbolic. It's not literal. Sidereal, which is Vedic astrology, is the literal place where your horizon line was at the time of birth. My literal sidereal rising sign for me is Pisces. I mean, not Pisces, is Capricorn. And my tropical rising sign is Aquarius. Okay, so let's get going. Hope that helps. People ask me this all the time, and I thought I would try to explain it more often. So Aries. So this is 8th house energy, right? The whole retrograde, the 3 passes that I talked about earlier. If you didn't watch that, please go back and listen to the dates. The 3 passes in October, then ending in November around the 17th. These are all happening in the house of money. You know, the 8th house is other people's money, bank loans, grants, stipends, tax rebates, mortgages. Did I say that? If you have a spouse, it's your spouse's money. If you have a business partner, it's your joint monies. Sometimes I even see it with windfalls. Like I've seen people have a strong 8th house activation and win a lottery ticket. I've also, because it's the government's money or the people's money sifted through the hands of the government. Now, I've also seen inheritances. So if there's anybody in your life that you think could be passing, hot flash, I'm all sweaty, then you need to think about that as a time window in which that could happen. I don't agreeing and forecasting a beloved is going to pass. Hopefully we're talking about something that you're aware of, an ill elderly relative or something. But anyway, the retrograde cycle in the 8th house could definitely portend that. And Scorpio 8th house people, which Aries ascendants are here to learn a lot about digging deeply into the 8th house, right? To really explore that, because it's ruled by Mars, as is your ascendant. So 8th house is the taboos of sex, death, and money. So you shouldn't be a stranger to it, really. And so some really interesting ways money could show up that I described to you, because the retrograde will maybe go back. Old money owed to you, you know, too much taxes paid returned to you. A dispute about money that's been an old dispute that resolves during the retrograde. What else can I say? The axis of the 8th house and the 2nd house are being activated as well during the retrograde because of Mars's cooperation or alignment in opposition with Uranus. So a lot of what's going to happen in the 8th house money story could be sudden and unexpected. It could be a jolt. You may not see it coming, heads up. So it's not like the bank loan you're waiting for, okay? Because it can be disruptive. If you have some money thing you're waiting for, it could fall apart. Trust the bigger picture. Mercury retrograde is not a malefic story. It's trying to realign, readjust, fix something, make it better. You know, when one door closes, another opens. All right, moving on. For you, oh, and just to remind you then, so I'll say it again, watch the beginning to find the dates of the Uranus opposition, but the jolt of something sudden that could surprise you then in the retrograde period is when, on the 19th, 18th, 19th, when the Uranus Mercury opposition is direct. Exact, precise. You guys, I'm laughing because I'm doing this video, even though I think I might have low-grade COVID. So it's a long story, but I'm hyper dosing with vitamin C and stuff like that. So I'm a little foggy right now. So I've had it once. If I get it twice, that's great, because Mercury is retrograding on my Neptune, and Neptune rules viruses, and retrograde means let's have another round of COVID. Sounds like fun. Yes, you can get it twice. And you know, I only had mild cases. I'm really, really healthy. I take care of my health. I mean, I don't have any, underlying conditions. Okay, moving forward. Taurus, this is for you. You guys are having a 7th house Mercury retrograde. This is going to impact your relationships, particularly your primary long-term monogamous one, whether you're cohabiting or you're married or you're just a committed couple, as well as any business partners you have. And if you have a client base, your clients. So there's a sense of all the house of other going retrograde. So as I said earlier on, pay attention to that Uranian transit as well. Something unexpected in the house of relationship, a real bolt or jolt to your relationship status. Now, if you're single It could jolt or bolt somebody from your past into your present. And again, the Iranian bolt is around the 19th of October, 18th, 19th. But, you know, so those single Tauruses could have somebody from the past, even if you're not single, even if you're with somebody, still somebody from your past house of relationship, some long-term relationship partner from the past could suddenly make a encore performance, reappearance, pop up in an email or a phone call out of the blue during the retrograde. And, so pay attention to the story of what that's offering you during this retrograde period, and reminding everybody to listen to the early part where you can find out how impacted you will be based on various factors in your natal chart. You know, it's not all one size fits all for everybody in existence here, okay? So why do I say that? Well, because for you Taurians, you're a fixed sign, and the retrograde is happening on the angles of the fixed signs, and that Uranus, that's a jolt of something sudden, is in your first house if your ascendant is Taurus, or derivatively, you know, Sun and Moon Taurus is as well, experience that energy. So this for you, you're one of those signs, for fixed signs, for whom this is a very powerful 3-week retrograde, you know, between now and really till it returns back to November's return back to the same degree. My brain is foggy. 17th? Yes. All right. Okay, so moving on. Gemini, this is happening for you guys in your natal 6th house of work, like daily work, daily grind, routines, the workplace, the office, your health, ways you take care of your health, your house of karmic debt. Sometimes things in the 6th house are very subtle. You know, they're not that like big deal energy. You could have a misunderstanding with a colleague at work, it's someone in your office. You may have a technical failure. Some of you Geminis in a device you use for work, your laptop, your camera, your microphone. I hope this baby's working. Oh man, I should have checked it. It is good. And so you're really looking at some inconvenience in the 6th house. It's not likely to be radically disturbing. I'm curious to think also, though, Gemini, Sun, Moon, and Ascendants, that, you know, the retrograde trails back into your 5th house of romance as Mercury enters into the last 5 degrees of Libra. So you might find that a little touch of an old romantic story from a very karmic relationship could come back to you and reinvigorate itself, or need to be closed out properly. So, and pay attention for that jolt of energy on the 19th, 18th, 19th, when Uranus will oppose Mercury, or Mercury actually opposes Uranus while going retrograde. That clears up around November 17th. Something quite unexpected could hit you in the house of health. It's a house of sickness, really, you know, so if you're going to get sick, it could be then. Definitely that's, you know, an option. I would ask you not to get sick, choose differently. But the other part of it is, again, you might discover something like, oh my God, I used to always do Peloton, and then I sold it 5 years ago, and someone's offered me their free a Peloton for free. Like, it could be a really good way to get healthy, because, you know, the sickness house, the 6th house of sickness, can also rule ways that we get better, you know, exercise machines and exercise routines. So an upgrade or a movement towards some new practice of exercise. What else do I want to say about you, Gemini, Sun, Moon, and Ascendants? Just a very karmic placement in the chart, the 6th house. It's where we want to do our greatest service in the world, and where we can take the service of our life path into like kind of a serve the collective, a devotion, a bhakti energy. If you have any desire for spiritual enlightenment and liberation from the dream, the 6th and 12th axis are the bhakti and the moksha, the devotion and liberation axis. So it could also be with Mercury Cazimi on October the 25th in the heart of the sun, that you might have some kind of enlightenment aha. So if those of you who are meditators or yogis or yoginis, it could be quite auspicious as the retrograde goes through the 6th house this time. Cancer. This is happening in your 5th house of children, creativity, fun, play, pleasure, and romance. And also that, why the hell do I get out of bed spark of life that we all have, the joie de vivre, the 5th house. So it is a lucky house too. And I didn't say this, I should have said that for the Gemini too. The axis is 612. So Uranus is activating that. Sorry, that was I'm sure my Geminis aren't listening to the Cancers. Sorry, so I will just zip it up. I would say Cancer, so back to you. Yeah, romance, children, etc. Creativity, spark of life, joie de vivre, play, pleasure, fun, sensuality, sexuality. So this fifth house activation, Eros, is going to spark something from the past, maybe. This is one of those literal ones where it is like, oh my God, a lover from my past is showed back up, or a boyfriend or a romantic person. A child who's been absent or missing in action because they're traveling and they don't live near you may come home to roost, or come, you may be a new correspondence, and a strange child could pick up a correspondence again with you out of the blue. Mercury retrograde in the house of children. Any creative projects and inspirations, even an idea for a new business, very fifth house, that you put on the shelf could come back to life, and you may take it off the shelf and reinvigorate it and blow some inspiration into it. Keyword for the fifth house, inspiration. So that's exciting. Now there's a jolt of light coming out of the 11th house where Uranus is transiting right now, and that's going to be very acute on the 18th and 19th. Some sudden shocking event or surprise or unpredictable turn of events. Uranus could deliver that through the mechanism of allies, colleagues, and friends, or somebody who belongs to the same group to you that you do. In the online world, the 11th house often looks like, I belong to an online membership, I belong to this Facebook group. Okay, now that we're all online, a lot of our 11th house associations are online associations. But of course, if you still go to a church, or you belong to a club, or you go to the bingo hall still, or you hang out with people in the knitting club or the book club, those are 11th house energies. Professional associations as well. 11th house is great gains from your career financially, and possibly, and windfalls can happen here, pennies from heaven. And the fifth is the house of luck. So you may have a lucky financial break as well with that bolt of Uranian energy. If there is, because it's a retrograde Mercury, it's something you were hoping that would happen. Maybe you've been buying lottery tickets steadily for two weeks, and you're just praying over the lottery tickets, or maybe just something that you thought might happen, you were hoping would happen, and that you banked on happening might come to pass. It's fortunate for your money. So that's really good for you. Cancer ascendants, sun and moon. All right, Leo, this is happening for you in your natal fourth house. Now, your fourth house is your home. It's where you live. It's your apartment, your house, the land you stand on. It's your city. It's your ancestors. It's your mom and dad, particularly likely your mom. I prefer the tradition where the dad is the 10th and the mom is the 4th. So first of all those things are going to be addressed in the Mercury retrograde. Mom and you have been not talking, now you are. Mom's been distant, now she comes back, or a parent. There's ways in which the fourth house stuff going on there that you started but didn't finish will be finished. Like you tried to sell the house, couldn't sell it, took it off the market, you may put it back on. You had a contract for someone to buy your house, it fell through, and now it's going to reignite somehow. Something good about the home or the world of the home is coming to light and life for you. Leo, sun, moon, and ascendants, or a home renovation project gone astray and like really effed up suddenly fixes itself, miracles, because Mercury retrograde, it's going to go back and do something in the home zone that it was, that was already initiated before, because Mercury's been going through that part of your chart for a while. Now think about also, think about your ancestral stuff. For some of you more spiritual Leo, sun, moon, and ascendants, this could be a breaking of an old ancestral pattern, especially with a bolt of energy coming from Uranus, boom, family of origin, ancestral patterns. My dad always said money doesn't grow on trees, for instance. My dad actually said that. Maybe that's a pattern that needs to be erupted from my life. So although I'm not having this fourth house transit, you Leos are. Leo, sun, moon, and ascendants, get ready to maybe bust through some old and inhibiting and disinhibit that belief, something that held you back. Uranus is bolt of light that's jolting something in the fourth house, surprising you, is going to happen on the 18th and 19th of October. I would think also that it's probably a happy surprise, but it could be one that you didn't expect, but it will have a happy ending. So wait for the bigger picture. As I said in the beginning, when on like the end of November, on the 17th, Uranus does its last Uranus Mercury, and Mercury on the 17th of November. My dates are all screwed up. 19th of November, Mercury on the 19th of November returns to the spot that it started the retrograde. So if anything gets discombobulated about home, it'll straighten out somehow by the last third week of November. And it's all discombobulated for your highest good. All right, so we're moving on then, and we're going to talk about the Virgo, Sun, Moon, and Ascendant. Now, as I said at the beginning, retrograde Mercury is really, it's same for Gemini. Retrograde Mercury can be very magical for the ascendants who are mercurial, ruled by Mercury, Virgo, and Gemini. So it may not all be that bad. It may be full of synchronicity and goodness for you, Virgo ascendant. So don't bite your nails, okay? The energies in your natal third house where the actual retrograde happens. This is a house of your siblings, your neighborhood, some of your buddy friends that you're really close to, you know, closer intimate friends. It can be education, but it's not like higher education. It's like, I want to take a course, a workshop, a seminar, elementary school, high school, are those layers of third house education. And, you know, if you're ever wanting to see a divinator, like an astrology reader or a tarot card reader, divination and oracleship belong to the 11th house, third house. So for you, Mercury's, you may go back and see somebody you already saw, you know, go back and consult the oracle again. For you, Virgo, ascendant, sun, and moon, you may also think about reinstigating a friendship that had fallen by the wayside with an old friend that you'd had and not really followed up on, or they may reach out to you. Your neighborhood could change a bit, and it may have nothing to do with you. I think about Uranus is that it's really unpredictable, because that energy from Uranus in your ninth house could just mean like suddenly they tear down like the entire meridian on your street and rebuild it or something. So local neighborhood changes. I could also say that the energy of Uranus in your ninth house is very disruptive for some of you if you're in higher education. If you're in colleges or universities, campus settings, Uranus is up there really causing a lot of electrical energy, meaning that he's changing things up, and he got there in really in earnest in spring of 2019. So you may have been on an educational course and it's been really erratic and rocky because of Uranus. So that's just a general thing to pay attention to. Look for the bolt of Uranian light coming through to the third house on the 18th and 19th of October. Put the date on your calendar. Again, it could be that, as I said, the bulldozer tears down the meridian on the street in front of your house, or they upgrade the sidewalk by tearing it out. Or, you know, anything can happen in Montreal, I tell you. They always doing construction outside my house. Anything else I'd say to you guys? Siblings, you know, if you're out of touch with a sibling and not connected, there may be a reconnection with a sibling. Mercury retrograde in the house of siblings. Right, moving on. Libra, sun, moon, and ascendant. Is there anything else I want to say about you guys? I'm having one of those. I think I forgot something, but I can't remember what. No, I think that's it. I meant to tell the Leos back there something I forgot as well, but that's why everyone should listen to the beginning of my content, because I would have said, oh, Leo, you're a fixed sign. It's really intense for you. But I don't remember everything, especially when I feel, I don't know, like I'm fighting something off virus wise. Okay. So where was I? Who did I just do? Virgo, Libra. Okay. So Libra, sun, moon, and especially Libra ascendant. This is happening in your natal second house. Now, your second house is your resources. It's your money. It's your self-worth and self-possession. It's what you have in your life that makes you feel safe and secure. Food, shelter, water, basic needs in the pyramid. It's your voice, and it's what you eat and put in your mouth, and it's what comes out of your mouth. So I always like to think in a way that the second house has a vocational aspect to it, because the Latin word for vocation is connected to the Latin word for voice. And so when we find our true voice, we find our true vocation. So maybe that's why we get revenue in the second house, really, you know? And so the second house is very active during the retrograde for you. And so pay attention then for you Libras to where former ways of making money could come back, former self-esteem issues could return and be healed. Messages that you delivered in the past and things that you were doing vocationally are returning again from the past, with a bolt of light coming from Uranus on October the 18th and 19th, and that axis being activated of the 8th house of grants, loans, mortgages, bank money, inheritances, partner's money, spousal money. You could find that you are going to have some unexpected financial gift or development or turnaround in the 8th house that supports that second house energy, that one where you're bringing in resources that you need for yourself, including money. Alrighty. Like if I was you and there was something that made me money in the past and I hadn't done it for a while, I'd do it again. I was like, okay, you know, for me, I said, I'm going to teach that course again if I was you, you know, that kind of thing. All right, Scorpio, we're moving on. Scorpio rising, sun and moon. This is happening in your natal first house. This is pretty intense. This is a house of your very own identity. You are one of the big ones getting impacted. If you have any planets between 8 and 14 degrees of Scorpio in your natal first house, pay attention. Of course, derivatively sun and moon Scorpios, you'll feel this as well. Now, if your sun or moon is within 8 to 14 degrees of Scorpio, you're going to feel this. Okay. So you're a fixed sign, you're getting it hard, you're getting it like, cause it's happening right in your own identity spot, the first house. Now this is your body. So Mercury is going backwards and wants you to look at your physical body, the ascendant. Are you going to do something to improve your body? Are you going to go back and do an old style of fixing or healing your body? Look to the early beginnings of when the retrograde first started out at October 10th at the 11th degree of Scorpio. What were you doing with your body? What were you doing with your identity, your sense of self? Then, of course, we've got the station right now, October 13th, 14th, really intensely staying at the 11th degree to about the 17th. And then far down the road in November on the 19th, when Mercury comes back. Don't forget, it's a story. It's a passion play, beginning, middle, end. You can't ignore the fact that it's not a one-off 3-week retrograde that you just say, oh, it's Mercury retrograde. You look at the big 3 touch points here. So something is trying to emerge during those touch points all the way through till November the 19th, even though Mercury turns around on November the 3rd. So I'm wondering if you want to really also consider that your identity in the world could be changing, not just how you perceive yourself, but how others perceive you, a new role, or going back and investigating an old role and maybe trying to make an adjustment around that. Like sometimes we throw out the baby with the bathwater. I have a tendency to do that. I'm a writer, I'm a blogger, I'm an astrologer. I write about enlightenment. I teach courses on magic. And every now and then I go, and I just want to throw something away. Like I threw away my 40-day magic challenge. Now I brought it back and love teaching it because I say, I'm not that thing anymore. I'm an astrologer, but that's not really true. I'm all of those things. I love to do those things. And so for you, I'm just saying, you Scorpio, ascendant, sun and moon, it's like an identity crisis, Mercury retrograde. And be careful that you haven't thrown something away that you need, a piece of you that you can retrieve because you thought you were past it or no longer applied to your life. Anything else I want to say for you guys? Well, Uranus is jolting your first house, right, from the 7th. So that mid-October jolt, well, not mid, but October 18th, 19th is coming from a spouse, coming from a client, coming from a business partner. Those are all 7th house kinds of things. So maybe your spouse will have some surprising news that helps you with your identity, or if you don't have a spouse and you're alone and Uranus jolts you from the 7th house, an old boyfriend, lover, connection point might come back to you and reinitiate a romantic or long-term commitment, or try to anyway. All right. Or just come back and just talk to you and say, hey, I'm here. And maybe there's closure that is needed that you didn't have when, like, say, a breakup happened a few years ago. All right. So Sagittarius, this is happening in your 12th house of past lives, dreams at night, spiritual liberation, deep contemplation, hidden enemies, enemies you can't see, hospitals, self-sabotage, addictions, and undoing. Now, and the 12th house can also be foreign lands. I think that the sense of it then here for you, Sagittarius, rising sun and moon, is a subtle. The 12th house is never very showy. I don't think it's going to like outpicture dramatically. Although when you have a retrograde in the 12th house, you may have some insights about your past lives. If you want to do past life regression, go for it. But you may have some insights and bolts of insight, even an aha or a eureka or an epiphany, especially with Uranus when he goes into direct opposition to Mercury on the 18th and 19th of October. You might suddenly get, oh my God, I suddenly understand my, why I used to do that, or my personality or my habits or my addictions. And you might have a sudden enlightenment around those things. And you might be ready to let something go, like no longer need it. The energy is coming from the 6th house of your work. So colleagues at work, boss at work, health protocols, 6th house stuff. It could mean that a colleague or a boss is the one that jolts you into a new awareness of something. it could be that some healer or electrifying health provider in the 6th house gives you some kind of treatment or attention that just jolts a whole new you of, understanding your self-sabotage, your past lives, your self-undoing. But also there's hidden enemies too, so a colleague at work could be masterminding to overthrow you. And they will probably be exposed with Mercury retrograde, honestly. So especially in Scorpio, the sign of secrets where it's happening. So there may be an exposure of someone who is undermining you behind your back. And that could come because it's in the 6th house through the area of your life that you would call your work. All right. Your livelihood. Moving on to the last 3, it's Capricorn. I need water. It gives me a sec. I've been talking a long time. Okay, so Capricorn, Sun, Moon, and mostly ascendants. This is happening in the 11th house of good spirit, the house of good fortune as well, place of allies, friends, and benefactors, a place of pennies from heaven, great gains from your career, and just a zone of goodness. Your hopes, dreams, and wishes are in the 11th house. And so you may go back and investigate a lost dream, a forgotten hope, a secret wish, and try to bring it back to life. As well, friends and allies, people who want to help you out could come out of the woodwork. And if a friend from the past comes forward and says, I really want to give you a hand or help you with something, that could be very much Mercury retrograde in your 11th. And our social networks online as well can be included in the 11th house. So even an acquaintance-like friend could come out of the woodwork from the past and say, hey, I really want to give you a hand. I want to help you on something. Money and reputation and rewards and awards and promotions from our career path from the 10th house can show up in the 11th. A delayed reward, a delayed promotion, a delayed advance in your salary, a delayed grant, or, even like bonus, a bonus in your work could come to you that was delayed or that was expected in the past. It didn't show up until now. When that bolt of light comes from Uranus, boom, to your 11th house from the 5th house of luck, I have no idea what that is, but Capricorns, you guys need to really think about playing the lottery because you've got a lot of action there. Or do you have an old lottery ticket stuck in a drawer that you forgot to check? Because that could very well bring some pennies from heaven from the house of luck, Uranus, into your 11th of pennies from heaven, but something from the past. So as I said, is there an old tattered lottery ticket still available to check out? Go check out your old drawers and stuff. What might be hidden in there? Okay, I think that's all I need to say. I think. Yeah. Okay, let's go ahead. We're on the next one, which is Aquarius, fixed sign, a rising ascendants like I am, a sun and moon. Now, for you guys, don't forget, because you're a fixed sign, just like the Leos and just like the Tauruses, you're going to get an extra angular jolt from this Scorpio retrograde period. And it's important to pay attention to your degrees of the Aquarian house, 8 to 14 in general. 8 degrees to 14 degrees. If you have a planet there, like I have Saturn at 9 degrees of Aquarius, although my ascendant is like at 16, so it's not really being impacted. It's not going to hit my body, right? That's my ascendant, but it is going to hit my Saturn, my status quo, my rigidity, or the way things should be, my extra special know-it-all in the 1st house. Yeah. So I think for some of us, Aquarius risings, depending what planets we have there, in general, you could say it's a theme of some part of our identity, 1st house, coming back to be investigated, to be looked at, to be, to be intrigued by or whatever. Oh, wait a minute. What did I just say? Oh, so it's not in our 1st house. Sorry. That's what happens when you feel like you're coming down with a virus and you try to do these things. Sorry. We are fixed signs and we are impacted, but the actual event is happening in our 10th house. So the actual retrograde is a 10th house activation. Sorry about that, guys. And I just got sucked into my ascendant for a minute. I got sucked right back into my own ascendant. Scorpio in the 10th house. Okay, that's what happens for whole sign houses for all Aquarius risings and sun and moon derivatively. So this is all about the career. Is there something you're going to go back and do in your career from the past and do it again. Now, I just did do that with a course I taught, but there's another course I might want to pull out of the Heidi house of my past, the Miracle Lab, and I might want to reteach it in November or December. I really enjoyed doing it the first time I did it, 3-week course. And so if I bring that course back to life, that's a classic Mercury retrograde in my 10th house, something from my career in my past that I'm going to bring to the present, right? I haven't taught that in 2 years or a year and a half. So you can figure this out for yourself, Aquarius, Sun, Moon, and Ascendant. If there's something in your past that's coming to the present in your career that you're going to resuscitate or resurrect. Now, it could be an old boss comes back to life and, you know, calls you or emails you and wants to share something with you, because your 10th house has the authority figures, the boss is in it. It could be a father or father figure, 10th house. It comes out of the woodwork, even a literal, your father wants to connect and communicate or share some news or information with you. So those things retrograde, you know, Mercury. The bolt or jolt of energies from the 4th house. Now, Aquarius ascendants, you've been feeling that energy of Uranus in your 4th for a while. You know, it's kind of been like disrupting your home. You moved a bit, probably moved dramatically like I did from Vancouver to Montreal, but in the last year and a half. But the idea here is that an inciting bolt of light from Uranus, the great awakener and the change maker, and the unpredictable, unexpected changes that he brings to your 10th house, is intriguing. I mean, I would love to know in comments how that plays out for you Aquarians like me. I'll let you know for myself. It could because there's 3 passes and it, you know, it's not just a one-off event. That Uranus story, just like the Mercury retrograde, tag teams each other. So Uranus opposite Mercury, October 7th, October 19th, November the 17th is one long tail unfolding, just like the October 10th, October 13th, 14th window, and October 17th is the 3 passes of Mercury direct, retrograde, and forward, and they all tie together somehow. So I'll give you an example from me. If I do teach a course again that I've taught before, I'll definitely wait till after the November 17th return of Mercury to the top of the chart, I mean to the same place in the chart. For me, that he's going over my Neptune. Okay, anything else I want to say about the 10th house? It is your reputation. And the 4th house can be your family of origin and your home that you grew up in, like in your hometown and your homeland. And so maybe your reputation will take a sudden jolt in your home native land or within the orb of your family of origin or that kind of thing. All right, just a possibility. 4th house is ancestral line and family, you know, up the line, mothers, all that. Maybe you'll clear some ancestral thing with a jolt of light, October the 17th and 18th. I keep saying jolt of light because to me, Uranus is like a chi prana shakti field energy. And if you ever have so many clients who are healers, or I've known spiritual teachers who can throw shakti pad out, they all have Uranus really close to their sun or their ascendant. There's a sense of Uranus is not just about the ideas, it's about energy, right? And I think of energy and light in the same breath. So that's why I always say a bolt of light when I say Uranus. All right, last but never least, I always say it that way, is the Pisces of the world. You ascendant Pisces, you sun and moon. Remember, you always want to check out your 8 to 14 degrees of your sign of Pisces to see if you have any planets there. Now that's not angular, of course, the way the fixed signs are, but it will offer up a sense of where the potency is for you guys, of where everything's going to happen. Now, that's true for everybody. So the Pisces folk are having this in the 9th house of soul, God, higher education, campuses, book publishing, foreign lands, travel, philosophy, the legal system often is up there. If you are a Pisces ascendant, sun, or moon, and Mercury is retrograding in the 9th house, you may have had a trip that you were taking to a foreign land that's canceled. You may go on a trip to a foreign land that was canceled, but now you can do it because it comes back from the past, and now you have a chance to go. You could also, if you're an educational person, like you're in universities or campus settings, this could be something about redoing a course or an old course that you did needs to be redone, or a professor or a guide, a mentor, an ally from your past, spiritual teacher, guru as well, reappears in the present for you Pisceans. So that's all very possible. I'm curious about how the jolt of Uranian light's going to hit you on the 18th and 19th of October. And that's going to come out of your third house of your local neighborhood, your siblings, short-term trips and travel, casual education, elementary education, and oracles and diviners. So a sibling can tell you about something like, oh my God, da da da, and and a book, you got to read this book, and you think, oh, I had that book on my bookshelf years ago, but I never read it, and you go out and buy it again. Why did I say it that way? Third house is light coming from the house of siblings toward the ninth house of books and book publishing, and it's yet retrograde, so something from your past. So rereading a book, but because your sister said reread that book. So I'm just trying to make up stories to give you an idea how to weave this, you know. Third house is short travel. Uranus is like sitting there. You take an unexpected short trip. Uranus in your third house, and boom, that trip escalates some good change in the retrograde part of the chart, where something from the past comes to the present to do with education. I don't know what else to say. You have to mish and mash this stuff together. You only kind of get to see how it plays out when it happens. Most Pisceans, sun, moon, and ascendants are in line toward the mystical, the magical, the spiritual, God, truth, and wisdom, as well as addiction. And they'll all go hand in hand. So if you're looking for a guide, a counselor, a therapist, a mentor, or a spiritual teacher, and you don't have one, then this retrograde could even bring one back from a past life. It's not always just from your physical past in this life. Mercury retrogrades can also pull on the threads of the past life as well. So you may meet a guide, a mentor, a teacher, a healer, a shaman, or something like that during the retrograde that is a kaboom for you. You know, that bolt of Shakti, bolt of Chi, bolt of light that really, really, really helps you out in a new and profound way. And by November the 19th and the 17th, when both the retrograde Mercury returns to its place in your ninth house, and the Uranus Mercury finishes its last opposition, you'll see a divine play for your very goodness in the ninth house, ongoing and completing by then. All right, so I definitely feel like I'm coming down with something because I feel like talking is hard. All right. I did cancel clients today, or sessions I had, but I thought I could pull it off to do a video for you guys just to be timely. So anyway, wish me wellness. I am on like so much vitamin C, it's crazy. I want to say, some of you know I've talked about the wearing a mask and diffusing the virus, and it is airborne and aerosol. But I did have a bout of COVID in March, April, and I survived to tell the tale. And my experience is that if you're healthy and you're taking care of yourself and your immune system's well, you're probably going to be fine. But it doesn't excuse us for putting other people in harm's way, and especially people who are vulnerable with their immune system or they're elderly. And I am not leaving my house right now. I'm doing everything. I'm staying put since I felt symptomatic a day and a half ago, 2 days ago. So I am honoring that. I may have nothing more than just an onset of a cold or a bit of mold allergies. It's mold season here in Montreal, but it's being kind and cautious and kind to others. Is it too much to ask? I don't want to be a lecturer, but I'm finding myself highly baffled by people who won't wear masks. It's not about you. It's about others. Anyway, just a little lecture there. Sometimes I get almost like sad and exhausted by the whole thing. So if you don't like that part of my life and you're an anti-masker, I'm sorry. My astrology is still good astrology, really. But you know, just anyway, I'm babbling. All right, that's it. Like, subscribe, share. And if you caught the tail end of this, because the only people who probably did are the Pisces and hung in for my lecture, thank you. My sister Cindy is a Pisces rising. Her brand is Blind Faith Readings. She's got incredible prices and right now, but in general. And if you join my Patreon, I'm adding her as one of my bonuses to get a discount code for sessions with her. Blind Faith Readings. She's blind and she does Lenormand Tarot, and she's brilliant. And the way her clients rave about her, I'm like so impressed. Often our clients intermingle. I send her some of mine and vice versa, and they'll say, you said the same thing that your sister did, or vice versa. And no, we do not collude. I do not tell her anything about my clients. So check out my Patreon. I'm brand new to it. I've only got 2 subscribers because I just started, but I am trying to create an intimate community there, so that I'm not just talking at YouTube. And so if you're curious, please check it out. Check out my newsletter also below. The weekly forecast and my swig of cosmic moonshine might make you smile. And it's not content that's covered here as well. It's more of a dive into the week ahead. All right. Thanks, guys. Ciao. Mwah.